Hi, everyone. I'm James Garbutt.
And I'm Denny Dumas.
And this is the Garbutt Dumas Real Estate Podcast.
Welcome back to the Garbutt Dumas Real Estate Podcast, guys. This is exciting. We are right in the middle of July, and it has definitely, that busy season that typically happens March, April, May, June into July we are kind of right in the thick of it right now, and feels like it has just got pushed back a little bit due to coronavirus, and this is going to be a very busy summer. So today's topic, what's hot, what's not, what is getting multiple offers, what is very, very active right now, and on the other side of the spectrum, what is not getting as much attention as it has in some markets in the past.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to kind of mention, we've done a lot of market updates over the last few months. Right now, mid-July, starting to feel like we're in the, peak of what this busy market's going to be. It feels like we're in the center of it, the thick of it. I mean, we won't know until we're in September, October, and see what that's like. But yeah, I personally took a moment because we're sending out a client newsletter to our database. So I took a moment to really dig into the sales that has happened the last 90 days in Greater Vancouver, and definitely found some stories and some trends. Mm-hmm. So, the whole theme of this episode is just to talk about what's in terms of the products that we typically work with, what's been hot and what's not. Mm-hmm. And I want to be clear, we're not covering everything. There's definitely markets, I'm sure Richmond and West Vancouver and Fraser Valley have some very quiet segments, but we can't touch on it all. So let's just touch on what's right in our backyard.
Absolutely.
So maybe we'll start with, I'd like to start with one standout, and I keep talking about this area as like the most resilient real estate market in the world, but I don't know if it is. I just say that. And that's East Vancouver detached houses. Yeah. So East Van is one of the most resilient, like active, busy markets. In a slow market, it seems like it's busier than a suburb busy market, but when it's smoking hot in East Van, there are multiple offers everywhere. Mm-hmm. And for East Vancouver, last 90 days, the average detached home sold for $1.59 million. So it's not completely out of reach. It's a pretty active price point for a Vancouver address. But these sales went for on average 99.5% of list price, which means that there's a lot of full price sales, a lot of above list sales, a lot of multiple offer situations. Yeah. And overall 99.5% of list price sale is a seller's market. Yeah. Yeah. And then the hottest parts of East Van, and I think this is, feeding off of Main Street from a few years ago, where Main Street was the hot spot. It's slowly getting more east as affordability gets there, and that's Fraser and Knight. Mm-hmm. And a close second or a close third would have been Renfrew. So basically, Knight seems to be, Fraser is like the new Main Street, and Knight seems to be the new Fraser. But in Knight Street in the last 90 days, that was the standout. The average sale was 104% of the list price. So in all three of those sub areas, the average sale was over 100% of the list price. So that's just a lot of bidding wars, a lot of multiple offer situations. And if that continues for a long period of time, it just shows that prices increase. Yeah. That's what happens. Yeah. So East Van, you continue to be crazy.
Mm-hmm. We've had a couple personal experiences in the last couple of weeks. I have some buyers looking in those neighborhoods more on the east side, which is kind of Commercial Drive, Victoria, and out to Renfrew area. On Monday night, we lost a multiple offer by $5,000. It stings a little bit. But I look at that product. It was on a small lot. It was a fully renoed older home, but it was only, I think it was 1,600 square feet, small lot. And I look at that sale price versus the peak of 2017, and I don't think we're far off. Like it definitely, those neighborhoods definitely did fall off a little bit late 2018 and through 2019, maybe 10%. But I think we're pretty close for that kind of a sale.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Mm-hmm. I would absolutely agree with that. It's we're in peak pricing in some of these markets, and I mean the peak pricing, like our Canadian dollar funds, we're selling at the same prices that they were in the peak of the market of, say, late 2017. Yeah. So your experience, what price was that for the house that you were going after?
Sold for 1.525.
5 so right in that sweet spot.
Yeah, exactly.
In which area? Do you remember?
It was just off of Victoria.
Just off Victoria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we had like this same client, we offered on something a few weeks ago. It was a little closer to Hastings, bigger lot, big home, big older home that was a full restoration. I think it was listed at 1,599, got 11 offers. We did not win. And it sold just over 1.9.
Oh,
sold 300K over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's validating these, 104% of list price sales average in like areas like Knight.
I was talking to the listing agent on Monday, and he's a big East Van guy. So this is his neighborhood that he knows really well. And he said, there just isn't inventory. There just is not enough good product, and there is a lot of people looking. And obviously this is what causes bidding wars and multiple offers and prices going above asking.
And I'd say that's not an East Van specific thing. That's pretty prominent in a couple other areas.
Yeah.
But I think one real thing that sticks out is the average sale in the last 90 days has been 99.5% of the list price across a whole city of East Vancouver or a whole area of East Van. If that continues, that means prices are climbing. So when a buyer misses out on a place by $5,000, there's a higher likelihood that the values are going to go up on the next one and the next one and the next one. And so in these types of markets where there's clear evidence of a climbing trend, be a little looser on that price. It's hard to say that when we're not spending our own money, but if you miss out on a place by 5 to 10 because you're stuck on the sale that just happened a month ago, the next one might be $50,000 more.
Yeah.
And we're not going to know until it passes. But based on the data from the last 90 days, it's an upward trending market at this point in time.
Yeah.
We'll see what's around the corner.
Even like understand that as someone looking in these neighborhoods right now, you're frustrated with inventory. So is everyone else that you're going up against, right? So if there's 4, 5, 6 other offers, it's likely that half of those, this could be their 3rd, 4th, 5th offer, and they're frustrated that it took them a month and a half to find another good property because there just isn't much inventory.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's, outside of East Van, just to kind of highlight a few other areas that stuck out. Our office, Glenbrook North, New Westminster, that was on the list. So I'll move on to New West. Sure. And New West is drawn by affordability and location. It's 5 SkyTrains close to Vancouver, great vibe, cool, charming houses. And in New West, the average price in the last 90 days has been $1.3 million for detached, and average sales for these detached are at 98.2% of list price, which means a lot of them are going close. Some are going full and above, and some are not. And the most active spots in terms of numbers was the West End and Glenbrook North and Queen's Park. And particularly those 3 markets, those accounted for majority of the sales, and over 30% of the listings that sold in those 3 markets went for above list, multiple or full price or above. And really it comes down to affordability in those markets. I currently have a few people looking for homes in New Westminster. It's frustrating. Yeah. There's a lack of quality in the 1.2, 1.1, 1.3 range. And when a good one comes up, it gets a lot of attention.
Yeah. Even just to touch on that, like we have a listing right now on a busy street in New Westminster that is priced at 1.1. I think it's priced really well. And typically in a slower market or like an average market, that type of product is slow for showings just because people know it's on a busy street. But this one, I think because the inventory is so low, we have so many showings. We have like 10 showings a week.
Did you say the address? Well, sorry, I missed that. Was it 937 10th that you're referring to? Yeah.
It's probably been our busiest listing this year. Hasn't sold because people are hesitant to get over that busy street, I think. But I think the fact that we're getting so many showings there is just evidence that there isn't much available to see.
New West specifically is known for having a lot of quirky homes and a lot of homes that have maybe some negative feature about them or a layout. Usually it's a layout thing because of the older homes. But why I'm bringing that up is in 2017, buyers were a little more desperate and less picky, and those busy street homes and awkward layouts were selling. 2018 mid-year started to slow. 2019, people got selective again, and now with the way things are going and the peak of 2020, we're dealing with a lot of buyers that have been watching the market for the last few months. They started selective. And I can see over time, the frustration, the supply is still tight. Over time, those negative features are going to start selling again. You know, they're going to be a little bit more flexible, less selective.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think they're just unfortunately going to have to be if they want to buy something in the next few months.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like is the case in East Van. Like I said, people are getting frustrated with the lack of inventory. And so when people are frustrated, they make concessions.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, other highlights for New West specific, I'll just mention Queen's Park, the standout highest average price and highest sale price in the city. 2.425 is the highest sale. And that's higher than any sale that's happened in Burnaby this year. It was a beautiful home in Queen's Park. Other areas that kind of stood out when I was doing my research, Coquitlam, affordability, similar price point to New West, $1.29 million average price point in the last 90 days for detached. The most active area is Central Coquitlam with 28 sales, which is a lot. And Burke Mountain with 25 sales in the last 90 days. Both of those are big numbers. And I think Burke Mountain's drawn people with those new homes for affordable price. Central Coquitlam's drawn people, a lot of options in, well, the average price was 1.41, and that's probably a little higher because of, Coquitlam West has a little more expensive price points. But if you're like mid-central Coquitlam Poirier, you can get a pretty good house for 1.3. Yeah. I showed a home close to Moody Park not long ago, and it was 1.2, dated, but loads of potential. Like beautiful home, 4,000 square feet, 9,000 square foot lot sort of thing. Those aren't the exact specs. Great neighborhood, quiet street, and it got multiple offers. So there are good options out in Coquitlam, and I think you get just more selection out there, and that's what draws people out there, because there's not a lot of selection in Port Moody, and New West has quirky homes, so the in-between is Coquitlam. That gives you a little more consistency. Yeah. Do you have any offers or situations in Coquitlam or Tri-Cities and lately?
Yeah, I think you asked me this question last night, and I think what is the hottest product in the Tri-Cities right now is the young family product. So it seems like there's a lot of young couples, young families that are looking to move up. And like we've kind of chatted about before, how single family home prices have come down slightly in the last year and a half. And now that jump up to single family from strata is a little more achievable. Specifically, we've got a couple of people looking in Tri-Cities, Poco, Coquitlam, and that's a really hot product under 1.1 right now. It's super competitive. It seems like everything we go see, the only time you can see it's kind of back to like 2017. Agents will say, you can only come see it between 2 and 4 on Saturday, and we're looking at offers on Monday. And if you don't write an offer on Monday, you miss out because there is 6 or 7 other people. And we finally got one with these guys, but again, when inventory is really low and when competition is high, you're making concessions and you're going above asking, and it's slightly uncomfortable. You're doing all your due diligence over the weekend when the city's closed and making phone calls on Monday morning and scrambling a little bit to try to get all the information you need to make a strong offer. But it is the landscape right now.
Yeah, I'll mention in the research I was doing, to add to what Denny's saying, the median days on market for a lot of these markets was 7 days, which means to us that they're kind of determining when you can offer on a place. Usually the 7-day magic is give it a week of exposure on market and look at offers after it's had 7 days on market. Long years ago, I did some research on sales, and I found that the highest sale price to list price ratio happened for listings that sold in 6 to 8 days. And it's usually intentional. If it was above 8 days or below 6, they were more likely to be less than full price. And then 6 to 8 days was most likely to get the bidding war. And that's just obvious because you're giving it ample exposure, and it's clearly a hot product. It could sell in day 1, but you're dragging it out to day 7. So outside of detached, because if any of our current clients are listening that are looking for homes, they're well aware of the frustration. But let's give condos some love too, because one big highlight that you've mentioned to me a few times in the last couple months is 2 bedrooms in good, desirable neighborhoods are hot, and 1 bedrooms aren't as active. So, and I'll touch on the city that's the most crazy right now in the condo market. But what are you finding in general for, maybe it's a price point or maybe it's a type of condo, but what are you finding as the sweet spot for the condo market right now?
A few comments. One is there's more inventory. So I'm finding there's less competitive offer situations on condos right now than single family. That being said, a lot of the inventory is overpriced. So the stuff that comes up that is in a good location, in a good building, with a workable layout that is priced correctly is getting multiple offers. So the hottest area that I'm seeing in the suburbs right now is Port Moody. Port Moody 2-bedroom condos are on fire. It seems like almost everything that is listed correctly is getting multiple offers out there. A super desirable city. It keeps growing in desirability. Young families want to live there. Young people love the outdoors and the breweries and being surrounded by people like themselves. And that to me is the hot spot for condos right now in the...
It's got a lot going for it.
It does. It does.
Especially, I mean, think of this, stay-at-home environment. 100%. I mean, if you have to stay at home, where would you want your home to be? Mm-hmm. I'd pick mountains, water, and breweries, and lakes, and Port Moody has it all. And you kind of spoiled, my research here, Denny. Sorry, I still look at your sunglasses because I can't. Denny's wearing sunglasses for those that are watching on YouTube, and it's because he has an eye infection.
It's not because I'm auditioning to be a movie star?
No, it is bright in here. Carl's stepped up his lighting. So, but anyway, Port Moody was the hot spot. It was the standout, most active condo market, and that's amongst other active condo markets. And the condo markets are a little more balanced, it feels. And I'm sure, I didn't go too deep into like Main Street, East Vancouver, because I know there's some craziness over there. Yeah. It's just assumed. So we're going to highlight Port Moody here, and here's some highlights from it. So last 90 days. Average townhouse sold for $773,000. Okay. 99.5% of the list price. Again, a lot of sales at full price. Like over 30% of the sales were full price or above. Mm-hmm. And it was a pretty prominent seller's market. The other thing, 2-bedroom condo. What I looked at is the most active segment in Port Moody is Port Moody Center, which is like Klahani, Sudabrook area that had the most action. Yeah. And the typical 2-bedroom, the average 2-bedroom in those neighborhoods was $640,000. And 99.8% of the list price was what on average they got in the last 90 days. So that is a lot of bidding wars. And again, 7 days on market for the median was the median. And so Port Moody as a whole, those numbers in terms of closeness to sale, like list price sales, other strong markets were like 2% off, like 98% average sale price to list price. Port Moody was 99.5, had the most multiple offers that I could see out of suburb markets. And it's not surprising. It's getting a lot of attention. I've heard it talked on other podcasts. It's a clear standout suburb. North Van's up there, but it's a little more pricey in Lonsdale area. It's hard to replace Port Moody. Mm-hmm. And there's so much options there too. Like it's got a lot of draw. Mm-hmm. We have some experiences there.
We do. We had some experience last night.
Do share.
Like I said, like young family product is really, really attractive right now. People moving up in the real estate ladder. Townhouses, 3-bedroom townhouses in Port Moody are huge too. Not sure if you have stats on that stuff, but we've looked at a handful in the last few days, and a lot of them are getting multiple offers again.
Yeah, so I'll just go over a couple highlights. I mean, one thing, I didn't do the 3-bedrooms. Denny, apologize for that. Okay. Apologize. But 1-bedrooms across the board were not as hot as 2-bedrooms. Yeah. And some other comparative markets like Port Moody. I mentioned Port Moody Center being very active. Like New West, downtown New West in Victoria Hill was the most active area in New West. And 98% of the sale price was the average, list price was the average sale. Yeah.
We sold a 2-bedroom last week in Victoria Hill. In 3 days.
In 3 days.
Yeah.
There you go. And then the other area that kind of stuck out was Brentwood Park and Burnaby. Yeah. And Brentwood Park, again, Burnaby's a little more expensive. Yeah. So they weren't selling as close to the list price. The average sale price for a 2-bedroom in Brentwood Park was $750,000 last 90 days. So comparatively, Port Moody Center, $640,000 for a 2-bedroom. New West downtown Victoria Hill, $601,000. Okay. And Brentwood Park, $750,000. So that kind of shows you the little variance in price point of these SkyTrain suburb markets.
For sure. We've talked a lot about what's hot.
That's a lot about what's hot. What's not, Denny?
Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is this is a really good time for first-time buyers because 1-bedrooms, the inventory is slowly growing and they're not as attractive right now. The 1-bedroom condos in good locations even are much slower than we've seen in past years. So I think, where do you take advantage of this market right now? I think first time buyers. Interest rates are super low. We had someone get a 5-year fixed 2.1 the other day, and I was chatting with a mortgage broker a couple days ago.
2.1?
2.1.
Oh, it's going to have a massive penalty.
I didn't read the fine print. And variables, I've heard as low as 1.9 right now.
Wow. Well, I think just touching on the first-time buyer comment there, we're going to do another episode about talking about Vancouver real estate as an investment. And little spoiler alert, if you're putting down 20% or less, and a lot of these first-time buyers are doing 5%, 10% down, with the current market conditions for one bedrooms, that they're a little bit soft, there's a little more opportunity there. And if you're putting a low down payment down because you're stretching yourself to buy, well, when I was analyzing the last 10 years, low down payment in Vancouver real estate when times are good equates to a really good return on the money you put down. Mm-hmm. And so what I mean by that is, what I found was basically in the last 10 years, if you bought real estate in Greater Vancouver, on average, you outperformed like an S&P 500 investment on the financial markets. Mm-hmm. But that was only apparent when you leveraged the investment, meaning like if you put 30% down or 50% down, you're putting too much money into real estate. But if you're really leveraging on it with 5 to 10 or 20 as a first-time buyer young, yes, you're taking on risk, but historically, last 10 years have proven that it's been the right move. So we'll get on that in another episode. But first-time buyers, really look at the market out there, get your pre-approvals if you haven't done so. And looking at the influx for one-bedrooms particularly, and one-bedrooms are a good rental product. Exactly. Like the numbers work better on one-bedrooms often for right now. And often I'm skeptical to have these first-time buyers put it all on the line, but right now it looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, what's not, Denny? What's not? Let's just, like, the obvious thing is suburb luxury. Yeah. So let's just kind of focus on suburb luxury. And one of the in my little research, the anomaly stat that I'm sure is going to change any moment now is Burnaby. I mean, Burnaby's highest sale in the last 90 days was $2.29 million, which is low for Burnaby. That's not a special home. No. But they have, just to give you some perspective, they have 93 listings over that price, active. So Burnaby has 93 listings over its current highest sale in the last 90 days. It will have higher sale prices, but Burnaby struggles statistically because it's expensive. So just the average homes in Burnaby are expensive. There's a lot of expensive product. And the top tier neighborhoods like Deer Lake, Buckingham Heights haven't registered a single sale in the last 90 days. Wow. So they have 16 active listings, not a single sale. I looked at North Burnaby detached, average detached home sold for $1.55 million in the last 90 days. Mm-hmm. Lower price points in Burnaby are more active. And if I isolated price points like, call it under 1.5 in North Burnaby or under 1.3 in East Burnaby, I think the stats would reflect more of a seller's market. But the product just on average is so expensive. Mm-hmm. Outside of, do we have any recent experience in Burnaby that you can share?
Yeah, for some reason, Burnaby is moving slower than New West and Tri-Cities right now for single family. And yes, the price points are slightly higher for what you get. You get more land in New West and the Tri-Cities. We have a listing right now in Capitol Hill, which is a fantastic neighborhood, super desirable, really close to Vancouver. A lot of properties have great views. There's a lot of 33-foot lots there, so smaller properties. Under 1.5 right now, there is, I believe, 9 listed, which is not super high inventory, but there hasn't been a sale in the last 60 days. So we've got one that is currently listed, and the seller's a little bit frustrated with the activity, but it's just the neighborhood is not getting a ton of attention right now for whatever reason.
That's our market. It's a thin-ish market, meaning some sales hit it out of the park, but others just don't have a buyer at that moment.
Yeah. And it's one thing if you are having those conversations with the seller if their home is not selling or not getting attention that they thought it would. But when nothing in the neighborhood is selling, it's difficult to ease their concerns, right? No. Right? If other things around you are selling and you're not getting any attention, there's probably something wrong with maybe the price, maybe something to do with the home or the location, too close to a busy street or whatever it may be. But if nothing is selling, it's not really a time to get aggressive on price point either.
No, it's tough to reduce a price when there's no evidence of action.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, but that's realistically what we typically do.
Yeah.
So we've, talking about the markets that are not hot, we've talked about Port Moody being arguably one of the hottest markets around, but Port Moody has a sub area that's statistically one of the least hot markets around, and that's Anmore. Yeah. And there's nothing against Anmore. Anmore is stunning and beautiful, and I love it there. I mean, where else can you get an acre and 5,000 square feet for, yes, 2 million is a lot of money, but that's comparatively not for what you get. Yeah. But Anmore is beautiful, but expensive. And because of it, its stats are pretty terrible. So just to give you an idea, the average list price in Anmore for a detached home is $3.1 million, and that's 100% why. But yeah, there's currently 27 homes listed, and in a given month, based on the last 90-day activity, it's about 2.5 houses selling a month. So 27 homes, that's over 10 months of inventory. Yeah. That being said, it is also home to some of the coolest homes and one of the highest sales of the last 90 days in the Lower Mainland, and that's 1080 Uplands. And if you're listening, Google 1080 Uplands. It is a ballin' house. It is like an 8,000 square foot house sitting on nearly an acre with a pretty good view, close to Bunsen Lake. I've seen it. They had a realtor event a year ago. There was swans in the pool. There was a DJ. It was ridiculous. But inflatable swans and people on them, not real swans. But the house is absolutely ridiculous. I encourage you to look up the photos. Anmore, nothing against it, just high price points. And arguably, I think the inventory is oversaturated for those high price points. One day it might catch up. Maybe, one day Anmore is going to be very expensive. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if it's going to happen in the next, say 5 to 10 years. But in time, they're not making more places like that. Yeah. That is going to be a very expensive place to live one day. I love it there. But no, Anmore's not. And then the other obvious is there are luxury everywhere that are not hot. I mean, West Vancouver has some high end that is struggling. And outside of that, recreation property, Denny. Recreation property is not hot. So, for some people, it might be the Gulf Islands. For others, it might be Predator Ridge and Vernon. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Golf resort communities are not hot, Denny. I can tell you that from personal experience. Although we're getting more showings. Yeah.
And if you're going to get lucky, this is the time you're going to do it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're buying recreation property right now, just realize, they're not the most liquid at times and in markets like this. And that goes for anything that might be boat access, Gulf Island, this, Sunshine Coast, that, Okanagan, properties. Yeah. If you're living there, that's one thing. But if you're buying it as a secondary home, just recognize that sometimes those markets go quiet. Mm-hmm. And right now, it's pretty quiet.
Not that we have a lot of personal experience with some places on the island, but we've had a few clients looking on the island and have moved over to the island recently, and it's really hot over there right now.
Oh, yeah, Vancouver Island.
Vancouver Island, Comox Valley, Victoria, even like Cowichan Valley. It seems like we had someone go over there last weekend to look at homes, and they said, well, it was kind of a waste of a trip because our home hasn't sold yet, so we can't buy, and everything that we saw sells in a week or 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
It is really, really active over there. Yeah. They were specifically in Comox Courtney area, and it's very, very hot right now.
I imagine what that individual is looking at is probably same story as over here, low supply.
Yeah, exactly.
Low supply. Victoria picks up if Vancouver's hot. It's like a trickle down effect a little bit. Yeah. Well, Denny,
that was a pretty good update.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
Is that a catch line new segment? That's hot and not. Yeah. All right. Later.
Bye.